Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Horse Center. Who is Rich or Rich Who? And Julie Ramjeet as the hosts tonight. We have a special guest on, Crystal Pickett. Crystal, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Now, Julie and Crystal are friends. They both work in at Charlestown. Julie, how are you tonight?
I am good. I'm so happy to have somebody local here. And Crystal was super excited to get on, and I can't wait to pick her brain.
Indeed. So I don't know what happened here because I think we kind of overrode each other somehow because
Yeah.
we're not able to get you go ahead and try to get it so that she's the main person in there. There you go. I don't know. You overrode me. I'm gone for a little while. Give Julie controls, and the next thing you know, I'm out the door. But anyway,
I didn't do it. I just clicked the things you told me to do. Anyway, Crystal,
it would have worked for me.
All right. So let's take it all the way back, Crystal. I want to know how it all started for you with horses. Where was it for you as a child? What got you into the game?
So I started riding horses when I was 4 years old. I just fell in love with them, and every time I saw a horse, I'd beg my mom, "I want to ride, I want to ride, I want to ride." So she had actually ridden horses and was a good show jumper rider as a teenager at like Columbia Horse Center because I was born and raised in Maryland. And I begged her, and she took me to Woodland Farms, and I started riding show horses then. When I was 16, you want to make money. So I started exercising fox hunters and steeplechasers at Green Spring Hunt Club. And that's where I fell in love with the thoroughbreds. And I started getting some off track thoroughbreds to make into my own show horses. And then I found out when I was 18, I could get a license for the racetrack because the girl that came and exercised at Green Spring with me would go to the track in the morning. She goes, "At least there, our horses are tacked and ready." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, when you're an exercise rider, you walk into the barn, they're tacked up, they're ready for you. You get off, you get on the next one. You don't have to cool them out. You don't have to groom them, like you have to do it. We did at the hunt club and everything." So when I turned 18, I went to the racetrack. I got my exercise license, and there was no looking back after that.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So did you gallop for any big outfits? Anybody we know?
Yeah, so when I started at Pimlico, I actually Earl Bagley helped me. Of course, he's passed away now. And I got on some horses for Charlie Frock, Snake, as everybody knows him. And, I was brave. I was 98 pounds and I wasn't afraid to get on anything. I gallop anything. And then I took a job working under Lori Testerman back when like she had Disco Rico, and I was there for a while. And then when I left there, I kind of got like 8 horses to train on my own, and I needed also to have some income. And I was galloping for Tony Dutrow when Dove Houghton ran a shed row. That was way back when Laurel was closed and they were redoing Laurel. And that's how Dove and I became best friends. And we've been best friends now for like 25 years. So,
well, that's incredible. So those first 8 horses that got you started, how did you acquire those, or where did they come from? Did you get an owner, or did you have somebody give you a leg up?
No, I didn't get any leg up or anything like that. Everything I've gotten, every owner, I've bought every single one of my webbings, all my traps. I just I got started because I saved up some of my money, and I claimed like my first horse. I'll never forget her name, Spring Power. And she ran second, and Ramon Dominguez rode her. He was still riding in Maryland. And I called Steve Russian up and I was like, "Hey, you don't know me. I just started training, but I love to have Ramon ride this horse back for me." And I ran her back and she won. And some people that knew me from up when I used to go to Corbett Farm and break babies had some racehorses that they wanted to train, that we were breaking, and they gave me a chance. Cordelia Stables and sent some horses to me at Pimlico. And then Carl Johnson gave me a couple of horses, and then I got Bella Cabella and they let me claim, and that's how I got La Chica Rica, was claiming her. And
wow.
And from there it just grew, and I've been living at the racetrack and the barn every single day since.
So La Chica Rica, I was gonna ask about that one a little further into the show, but you brought it up. So that was a wild ride for you. Take us on it.
Well, I claimed her for 25,000 at Delaware Park. She had like kind of some wicked crooked legs, but so did her dad Disco, so it didn't scare me. And she was a tough filly. She was very smart. She would try you. I galloped her whole career, rubbed her some, and then at the very end of her career, my husband actually rubbed her, and she was just great. But she was tough. Everywhere she went, I had to go with her, so I always would have to travel with her. But she was incredibly fast, a super talented filly, and I just, she was just kind of like you find some horses in those big barns and they slip through the cracks, and you figure out what makes them tick. And she had her ways. Like, she would never go with a pony in post parade. She had to go by herself. She was independent. And, I just found a way to get along with her, and she ran her eyeballs out for me every time.
And she's still today your top income earning horse. So
she has to be flattering. B has to be close,
right?
Yeah.
She's still got number one. So take us. So you ended up at Charlestown. What brought you to Charlestown from Maryland?
So what happened was, about probably 16, 17 years now, I guess, at least, I had some West Virginia breds. I was fortunate enough, Mr. Daniel, who used to be Dr. Daniel, and then he had retired from the racetrack, was breeding some horses. And he had a Not for Love filly that had broken her neck and her head was crooked. And her name was Ideal Thoughts. And they were contemplating, I guess, whether or not putting her in training. Well, the one trainer that they had used didn't think she had a shot. And I said, listen, I'd love a chance with one of your horses. You breed great horses, and I'll give her a go. So I had her at Bowie. She did great for me. I mean, she made like, I think, 220,000, and she happens to be Hypothesis' mother.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, I did well with her, and I got her brother primary account. And
I remember that horse.
Yep. And of course he did very well. He ran in stakes and all that. So I was getting some heat. Like, you can't keep running these West Virginia breds out of the Bowie stable gate. If you want Charlestown horses, get stalls at Charlestown. So I wound up getting stalls. Eric Zemi, I started out with 10 stalls there, and and the purses were good, and the claiming was good, and it gave me an opportunity to split up horses that had the same conditions, like, so you weren't running them against one another. And I always try to do that, like, never win two horse that'll be more suitable. Like, I have stalls at Laurel and Charlestown now. I try to split horses up so that a way they don't have to run against one another, and the ones that are more suitable in the better spot. So that's how it started. And then I've just gotten more owners and more horses, and I've even bred a couple of my own West Virginia breds, a couple of fillies I've fell in love with over the years that I took home and bred. And because it's a good breeding incentive program. You get to go through your conditions twice and all that. You get owner bonus and everything else. So
yeah, the West Virginia program it's definitely appealing for West Virginia breds. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So getting into the game, we always ask the women, did you have any kickback with just being a woman, or was everybody kind of welcoming to you when you decided to come in as a trainer?
Absolutely not. And they're not welcoming now still to this day. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten started when I was getting started out that I would hear from, man, I'd love to give you a horse to train, but my wife would kill me. Or, it's a knock against you. I have kids. It's a juggling act at times, but I get so tired of hearing people say to me, oh, I just don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. But they never say that to the men trainers that have a wife and have kids. So what's the difference between me having a husband and having kids? My oldest daughter is successful. She's at Texas Tech on a cheerleading scholarship. I managed to be there for her. My boys play football. They're both very good. My youngest daughter works every single day in the barn with me. She does online schooling because at least one of my kids loves the horses. They all know how to walk a horse, clean a stall, be around a horse, because they've been, in pack and plays on the backside at the racetrack, on the front side. They've all been to the races all over the place. My oldest, she was, I was a single mom for a while, so she got drugged to Mama, to Delaware, all over the country with me. The younger ones have not had to do that as much as she did, because, I've had my husband helping me out with them. But, it's definitely a double standard. And I tell people, you have to do it twice as good to get half as much respect as a woman.
Wow.
There's just a lot of trying to say this so that it doesn't come off wrong. There's just a lot of accusations sometimes that get made when you're a female trainer and you get a new owner. They always think that it's not just because you do a good job or that you're a hard worker. I mean,
That
because
was something I dealt with as an agent. I mean,
Yep.
I remember sitting on the rail. This was years ago up at Charlestown, and I was sitting next to Joan Reynolds, another friend of mine, and I said, "Oh, don't sit too close." And she said, "What?" And I said, "You didn't hear?" I said, "Apparently I'm doing, inconspicuous things for my business." And I was writing for her as well. And she was just like, "Are you serious?" I was like, so I totally get it. You can't just be, and a lot of the women that we have had on the show said, no, people were welcoming. But there is another side to the card where there is a lot of kickback just for being a successful woman, and men don't deal with that part of it, especially if you're an attractive woman at all. That just makes it.
I'm pretty fearless. I don't care about who I claim from, because I don't think, if a horse is in a claiming race, they're in a claiming race. I have, there's a thing, where like, certain people, you might say something, "Hey, listen, my client wants to drop for this horse." But at the end of the day, here's the deal. If I don't claim for that particular owner, they're going to just ask another trainer that they have, because that's the norm these days. Most owners have multiple trainers. So if I say, "Oh, no, I can't claim all such and such," then they're just going to ask the next person to do it. So, and I've had people drop on horses from me that, I thought they would never do it, and they do. So, hey, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm pretty fearless in that way, and people don't like that. I
How do
stick
you
up
deal
for
with that when they take yours? Are you emotionally attached, or are you just super business, and you're part of like you said, the claiming game is what it is, and you let them go?
Well, I tell people all the time, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I got my big girl pants on, like if you're gonna, you know what I mean? I'm not, that's one of the things I think is, when people yell and carry on and all that kind of stuff, don't do that. Be a professional. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you put that horse in the race. So then that means you were obviously, there's been horses over the years that I've lost that I've loved. Some of them I've taken them back. You know what I mean? And then there'll be other ones that I have taken back, and then they'll take them from me again and take them from me again. And finally, I'll just kind of be like a horse corporate ladder. I claimed him back like 5 times at Delaware, and I always would win with them, win with them. When I lost him the last time at Laurel, I was like, I'm letting him go. I'm not going to keep chasing this horse. It gets to a point to where sometimes you have to realize you're better off letting certain ones go. You don't want to. You do good if you can turn your stock over. That's 100% for sure. And then there's other horses that, like a horse like Hypothesis, he'll never see a claiming tag.
Right.
Now, he'll live his days out on my farm before I'd let that horse see a claiming tag, because I do feel like we owe these horses in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I feel a debt to them, because, and I think that's one of the reasons why my barn works so well and my horses run so well, because, I have employees that have worked for me at Laurel since I first started training, since I first took my training license out. Gene has worked for me my entire training career. It's like kind of unheard of. The hot walker just passed away at Charlestown, Roger Thomas. He worked for me for 14 years. Like, I spoke at his funeral. It was like losing a member of my family.
Yeah, rest his soul.
Yes, wonderful man. The world needs more of him. That is 100%.
We have some questions coming in pretty quickly. I don't want to cut you out there, but I want to get to some of these questions real quick.
Sure.
Indeed.
Horse Racing says, is it easier to train a horse going route to sprint or sprint to route, or does it matter?
Absolutely, route to sprint.
Route to sprint.
Route to sprint, yes, because fitness is not an issue. You know what I mean? You're cutting them back in distance, and route to sprint for sure.
We have another question from Shane French. How can I get into as a new owner of getting a West Virginia bred horse for Charlestown racing without claiming? And
Well,
he's asking for your phone number for contact.
Well, you can give it to him, Julie.
Okay.
Yeah, you can DM us at you can see down below on horse race the number 2 day for Twitter. DM us there, and we'll make sure that we put you in contact. We put it out over the internet.
Yeah. Please, don't do that. Don't do that.
we give one. We'll give you that one from Tommy Two Tone 8675309.
Yeah. And then we got Mom Doesn't Get Attached. They took my horse the other day, and it was, okay, hon, you have another one at the farm.
That is true. That is true.
And then
Juju on the beat got claimed.
We'll lead off of this one. You can see we have another big advocate for the equine athlete. So you're talking about feeling in debt to them. What do you want to add to? You're part of the Aftercare at Charlestown. I actually called you the other day because I've spent my past couple days trying to rescue some horses out of the pipeline.
And I've done that too. And it can
about that. Talk about the importance of proper placement after the track.
Well, and like I was saying, I think the reason why my barn works so well, we have bags of peppermints in my fridge, and I always tell people, we're here for them. We work for them at the end of the day. We wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for them. So, I feel that it's very important, to be honest with your owners. When a horse has reached the end of its rope, I don't want anybody leaving a leg up on the track. I started a thing with Aftercare, who Georgiana works tirelessly for the Charlestown Aftercare, and Fran Burns works great for the one in Maryland. I mean, those ladies are doing a really, really tough job. Yes, it's very important because without the horses, none of us would have jobs from top to bottom. And so we started a thing with the jockeys where they started donating 10% like for a win and 7 for second, and then it goes back in increments. 60% of that goes to Charlestown Aftercare, and 40% goes to the Charlestown Jockeys Assistance Fund that I'm a president of and on my board is Gerald Almodovar, Arnaldo Boca Chica, Lori Boring, and Jeff Galeas. And then we put the money in there for just the Charlestown riders and the riders that have signed up to support the horses with Aftercare, to give them assistance if they get hurt, because I think it's important as a racetrack community. I feel like that's one of the things that there's not enough of lately. Like, people really need to be there for each other. It's a hard life. It's a very, very hard life for everybody. It's a 7-day-a-week job. You're exhausted sometimes. And instead of like being negative, like, I'm one of those people, like, when I tell somebody, congratulations, and I'm really glad to see they're doing good, I genuinely mean that, like, because it is a tough game. But, you have people that just don't want to see people do good. And I just don't understand that. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, I look at people like Rudy's in my tent, Rudy Sanchez at Laurel, and they're in the barn and they work on their horses and they work super hard, and he's gotten more horses and everything. And I can relate to, you know what I mean? It's like, this is a tough game, and there are people that work really, really hard, and, people just don't realize, I think sometimes, like, what you had to give up to do this.
Right.
It's hard.
It doesn't take anything to be kind. You all go to work in the morning at the crack ass of dawn and just, smile and say good morning. It's very easy.
One of the things that Tony Dutrow told Dove and I both when he decided to leave Maryland, and she went on her own and I went on my own, he said, girls, just remember, there's enough to go around for everybody. Don't cut people off at the knees. Don't burn bridges in this game, because you don't know, when the next thing's going to happen. It can be the most humbling game of any sport. And he said, just remember, if you're 20%, you're doing awesome. that means you got to accept that you're losing 4 out of 5 times. And when you think about that, that's a hard pill to swallow. And some people can't stomach it, and it can be like, I'll have some nights I'm like, man, I just got my ass kicked all night long, but then it's like, you just got to get up the next day, it's like, and it can be hard. And especially in this cold, and it can wear on you at times, and you just have to. So that's like, I think one of the things, I gallop every day and I love riding my horses. And like, there are certain ones that I get on and I can just kind of zone out everything that's bothering me and just enjoy that moment of galloping that particular horse that morning. And that makes it all worthwhile. And then I can see, like the fruits of your labor, like when Great Spirit went up there last summer. And I'm not one, I don't tout my horses. I don't brag about my horses. Like, people used to talk a lot about like Dr. Feelgood, and I never would engage in any of that or even say like flattering B. I was like, my horses will do the talking for me. That's.
And that's something I've always, you and I have connected more lately than ever, but I've always known you to be super quiet, a woman that's just done her job, barely has spoke, just good morning. I've never known you to be, I've always just seen you be a hard worker. I mean, come on, you gallop, you train, you're a cheer mom, you have the farm in Ocala, you're a wife, you're another, you got your youngins up here, you football mom, like,
don't say it. Don't ask the question.
Wow. I'm not going to ask I'm not going to say, I'm just saying, wow, people need to give her more credit. There's a lot of kickback locally. I think, and me personally, just being a woman, it's because of success, because like you said, it's easier to kick somebody than, congratulate. I don't know why, but 491 wins. You're super close to a milestone, 500. You're a woman. I think you've pretty you're pretty proven. You've had some really nice stake horses run for you. So I don't see why you have anything else left to prove as far as how you do things and how well you do it. You're doing a good job out there.
Well, it's funny, like, because my one owner, he's a super nice man, Mr. Perry. He like texted me in October. And he was like, you just went over 1 million in purses for the year. That's a huge accomplishment. I was like, oh, wow, thanks. I didn't even notice. Like, because I never wrapped up in my stats. Like, I'm, like, oh, like, like Chad does a lot of my entries, Gerald and Orlando's agent and stuff. So, like, at break time is when I meet with most of the agents, because they're like, that's the only time we can catch them on the ground, and I'll try to do my entries then. I'm like, I don't get wrapped up in the stats. I'm too busy worrying about, okay, I got to enter this one, and okay, I got to call this owner back, and hey, I want you to put such and such an ice, and hey, put this one on the blacksmith board. I got on him today, and he's clicking in behind with his shoes. Like, I'm like Dub says, I'm very good at delegating. Like, so, and then I'll talk to my husband and I'll be like, hey, this source, when do you think he'll be ready to come north? Because they do my breaking and layups, like they're legging up turf horses right now. And, so it's a lot of moving parts, and it wouldn't work if I didn't have the help that I have, the support of my family, my kids, like I'll FaceTime my sons. I miss a good many football games, which I hate, but they'll FaceTime me. And, when I do go home to Florida, which isn't as much as I'd like it to be because we're so busy at the track, I make it about them. I get caught up with things at the farm. I stay abreast every morning. I'm up at 5:30 giving them a training list. I know what goes on, and then I fly back up or drive a little horses back up, whichever it happens to be, but
she doesn't read stats, Rich. She doesn't read her
doesn't read stats. I see. Yes, but you did have a career year last year, as you mentioned, despite running crooked-headed and crooked-legged horses. What do you attribute that to?
Like, I always tell people, a happy horse runs. They, you know what I mean? Like that. I firmly believe in that. And spotting them right is some, but they don't all go up there and be 4 to 5 and win. You know what I mean? Like, they all pay some money at times. I really believe that a horse is like a kid. They're an individual. They're not a cookie cutter. I don't run a cookie cutter operation. Each of my horses at some point I get on, even I go on Sundays and get on horses at Laurel. And like, I actually went there today because we ran because it was President's Day. And I get on them and I like try to figure them out. And then there'll be certain ones that they'll be like, my Spanish guys will be like, that's a Patrona horse. Like, it's a filly that requires patience. And I don't know. I've been riding for so long. Or if there'll be one that they're like, this horse is tough, he wants to run off, and I'll get on them and kind of be like, okay, well, switch this, do that, just experience. And I was very blessed to
That's
Gallop.
really cool. A lot of trainers are only on the ground. So that's, do you think you kind of have you got to have like a little advantage there because you're actually on their back. You can feel what they might need or want to change instead of having to take somebody's word for it.
Well, and the good thing is too, it gives me a really good relationship with my riders, my jockeys that ride for me at night, because I feel like they're probably more open and honest with me than most trainers, because number one, they know they can't come back and tell me, hey, this was this or this was that, because they know I'm going to get on the horse Monday morning myself if I'm like really upset with the way the horse. And I don't really get upset per se, like there's circumstances and races and like you get cut off and things go wrong in a race, it takes a lot to win. Like, you have to get a good trip, you have to get a good break. I'm not one of those people that are jockey blamers, so you have some people that if they get beat, it's always the rider's fault. I always try to remain objectively. I don't bet on my horses because I feel like if you gamble on your horses, it doesn't allow you to watch the race in an objective way.
I love that.
How your horse ran and the performance, so I try to keep an open mind to everything, and so if they come back, for instance, Andre rode a horse for me and he came back and he said, Miss Crystal cut this horse's blinkers back. And the next time I ran the horse was in an all out duel and lost by a head bob.
Oh, I know. I was screaming at the TV gosh. Yes. I was riding from the couch.
Yeah. He probably had too many of us riding him. That's what it was.
Could be. So we got a couple more questions for you here from Royal Equine. Do you have a favorite in the barn? But my favorite horse is Love Them All.
Do I have a favorite in the barn? Right now, well, Hypothesis is probably one of my all-time favorites. His nickname was JR because he was Ideal Thoughts baby, so he was junior. Right now in the barn, I make sure I gallop Sarah every day, we call her, which is Great Spirit, but we nicknamed her Sarah Plain and Tall because she was like this plain tall bay filly when she first started getting broke at the farm. But
Junior will live his days in the Florida sun. That's what the husband says.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have a favorite because isn't there a family member named the pet named a dog after one of your horses?
Oh, well, Ideal Thoughts, when she came into the racetrack, she was so big and fat when she came in off the farm as a 2-year-old. So we nicknamed her Jenny Craig because she was so fat. So, I mean, she might be the only horse that I would put the tack on and the fat rolled up in front of her shoulders. And I was like, she's got to go on the Jenny Craig diet. So then she got nicknamed Jenny. And then later on, my husband got a Borble and he named her Jenny because.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So Andre's on here. He says, Sarah, I love getting on her too.
Yeah, everybody loves her. Yeah,
ask mom. Let's see. Ask mom about your child and your second child and your husband are on here just going back and forth. It's so funny. Bank Card is mine. Great story. Tell us about Bank Card. Andre rides her too.
Yeah, she's in this week. So with the horses that I breed myself, every year, I designate, okay, it's this kid's turn to get a horse named after it or something. And sometimes it'll be the sale ones that I buy that, I bought for myself and I kept. So Where's My Money is the mare. So I've kind of kept with money themes with her. So Bank Card is named for Natalie because when she was younger, she would always be like, Mom, I need your bank card. I need your bank card because she would want to get onto Fortnite.
Oh my gosh, that's the greatest story I've heard all day.
Yeah, and then Juju on the Beat was named because the twins
doing the dance.
Yeah, they rap to that song. It's one of their elementary plays, Natalie and Nathan. So
Do we have a video?
no, somewhere on my phone probably.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's how that name came about. And then I have a horse this year that she should be running. Her name's Holy Cannoli, and that's for Harley because she got to do this like crazy basket where she like the guys throw her in the air like way up above the stage, pull her feet to her head, and she like spins down and then double twist. And cheerleading, no one had ever done it, so they said, you can name this basket. So she named it the Holy Cannoli.
Here we got reform school.
Yeah.
Excuses.
Yeah, excuses was a Harley horse because when she was in Miami on Top Gun Large Co-Ed, every time I check in, I'd be like, "Do you get that assignment done?" She always had an excuse. So I was like, excuses.
Oh my God, I love this. I had no idea that you had named so many horses after them. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, my son Nathan, strong safety, was named for Nathan because that was the position that he played in football that year, and he did really well. They like won their Mighty Might Bowl and all that. So he was the strong safety.
That's cool. And I also just caught totally off horse racing, but Harley cheered for Top Gun. That's amazing.
Yeah, she was the longest reigning member of Top Gun Large Co-Ed in Miami.
Oh my gosh. I used to compete when I was like 13, 14. And I remember just YouTubing Top Gun all day long. They were the best to watch. Yeah. Rhonda Rousey, Andre said. Oh, why did Rhonda get Rhonda Rousey? I don't know. Does my husband ride that one?
Yeah, he's been on her, but we give them nicknames at the barn too. Like it's so rare that like it's funny, like the vets will come around and the guys will be like, they'll give their real name and they'll be like, let's do this as Rhonda's real name. But when we were breaking her in Florida, she's a redhead and she was pretty full of herself and would want to fight you. So we nicknamed her Rhonda Rousey. So like the nickname is stuck at the barn. So then the vet will come around and be like, I want to see, let's do this. And the guy's like, who's that?
Yeah, who's that? That's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, because some of the registered names that they get stuck with, we got to give them a nickname.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about 2023. Let's talk about what you've got in the, what's coming up for you. What are the plans? Anything exciting?
Because in the comments they say you got a stakes horse coming, but we have to but
yeah, I didn't post that because I was rich.
Well, we don't have to have any. We don't have any secrets around here. Go ahead.
No secrets in horse racing. No secrets on the racetrack, that's for sure. There's a very good saying. It says, believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see at the racetrack. And if people would abide by that, they'd be a lot happier.
Yeah, no. A lot of them are just bored and it's entertainment. They need somebody to talk about. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's very true. The one filly, she'll be coming back. I only ran her once as a 2-year-old because she was so big. And she won so impressively. And, it was just, she went home to grow up. So I'm really excited for her to come back as a 3-year-old because I feel like, at the end, like Dr. Feelgood didn't even run till he was 3. Not all of them are cut out to go run as 2-year-olds. Some of them are, some of them aren't. They kind of will let you know. But, I didn't want to push her. I was like, she's super talented. And their 3-year-old year typically can be their most lucrative year. And, a lot of my good horses, like you'll see, they came back year after year after year. Like Ideal Thoughts Retired Sound, Flattering Bee Retired Sound. I actually have one of her babies I'm training at Laurel right now. I'm really excited about him. His name is Rush to Candy. He's by Twirling Candy.
Nice.
Her owner sold like her Curlin baby for like $405,000, which I can't blame him. And he had a boy, so he opted to keep him and run him.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I'm hopeful for him, obviously. And Hypothesis has a little sister that should be coming down the pike this year. I'm really excited for her. And there's another baby out of his sister. I'm excited about him. He's an Uncle Lino. He's in Florida right now. So I hope to have a really nice crop of young babies this year. You always hope for that, but doesn't always work out, it just depends. There's so many obstacles getting them to the races, and there's a lot of them sometimes that don't wind up running until the fall, and it all just depends.
Mhm.
And
We've got a question here. We got a question coming in from Ryan. Charlestown has a lot of night racing. We're only night racing, Ryan. Do you have to train horses differently for night racing versus day racing?
The one thing I will say that I try to do is I try to get them all up there in the morning time while it's still dark out, to get them under the lights, because, and if you'll notice, I run a lot of horses with shadow rolls at Charlestown at night, because you do get the shadows across the track. And I do try to train a lot of them, especially first time starters and stuff, in the dark, in the morning time, while the lights are still up, because you do get horses that'll ship in from out of town. And it is a different kind of thing, running under the lights for the first time. Some of them, too, you'll see every now and again a horse will come around that turn where the gate sits in the inside from the 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
Shy away from that. I mean, so it can be a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah.
So at Charlestown is the bull ring. So do you have to train your horses a little bit to get out of the gates a little bit quicker than you would say at other tracks?
Absolutely. And I'm big on schooling at the gate in the morning. I stand a lot of my horses religiously, because the bottom line is, if you don't get out good going 4.5, you're in trouble. You got to be so much the best to make it up, because that's, and the other thing too is, like, I know the guys appreciate that, that you school the horses, and that's another hard job at the racetrack that is thankless, working on the gate, like climbing up in the gate with the horses. And they have an important job. They're trying to keep a rider safe, a horse safe, and get a clean start off for the betting public, so that's a thankless job as well. There's a lot of thankless jobs at the racetrack. The pony people that get beat up every night with black and blue knees, getting our horses to the post for us, people just, I don't know that they don't realize sometimes all the moving parts that it involves just to get them from the paddock to the gate. That's why I always tell people there's 99 ways to lose and only one way to win. So,
Sounds like a Jay-Z song.
Absolutely. There's 99 problems, but
hey, yeah, and with that comment, we'll with your husband here. Yes, it's amazing how they like to talk about the woman who works her ass off asks nobody for anything and minds her business. Well, if they weren't talking, she probably wouldn't be doing very good.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned shadow rolls. That's something that maybe people aren't familiar with. When you're looking at that, what are you looking at as a horse player to see if a horse has something like that on?
So the shadow rolls are pretty noticeable. So, it's a noseband, but there's an extended white fleece piece that comes out. And most of them, I run some with just a very small fuzzy about like this. And then I have some horses that tend to want to run with their head up, and like maybe even be kind of like jumping over things. I have some that are like this big. So they got to put their head down so that they can look across it. So it basically helps buffer, block the shadows, and they have to look across that piece of equipment so that, they can, it's eyes forward and focus.
So they can see where they're going.
Yeah, it's like, just like, with certain kids, they need a little bit of extra focus or whatever, Yep.
Yeah,
And then,
that was me.
yeah. And then you have some horses that, thrive on the competition and don't wear blinkers and love it. You know what I mean? And I find that more typical in fillies nowadays, is that the fillies are the ones that tend to want to thrive on the competition. I think one of the reasons why you see so many colts nowadays wearing blinkers and stuff is because the sales have gotten so big and they consider them so valuable that fillies typically will get turned out in a paddock with other fillies and run around and, what I mean, get that natural running around play instinct. But you get these horses that people don't want to geld, obviously, because they're going through the sale or whatever, so they want to maintain their value. So they only get turned out by themselves or go out on the exercise machine, just because people are protecting their investment. So then they're more afraid of other horses sometimes, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about your good ones, because listen, your good ones run no matter what. They overcome and that's what makes them great. But your average ones, you wind up either putting 3/4 cup blinkers on them. And listen, I don't think you do a mistake very often if you gallop them.
I agree.
So you trained and you bring horses to different tracks out in that Atlantic region. I see you run them sometimes at Pimlico, sometimes at Laurel, sometimes at Delaware, sometimes at Penn National. Is there something that you look for specifically out of your horses to say, you know what, I think this one would run better at Delaware, that one might run better at Mountaineer? Are there specific things that you're looking for in identifying where to place them?
Absolutely. So, obviously if you have a Pennsylvania bred, and they can run, and then break your maiden in, say, a PA bred race, I'm always conscious for my owners as far as I want them to win as many conditions as possible with their horses, especially the people that breed to race, because that's the long game. That is so you want them to get the incentive of winning the purse, getting a breeder's check in the mail from the state that they, bred. That's the hard way to go, breeding to race. There's no doubt about it. It's not for the weak, that's for sure, because along the way you lose a mare, you lose a baby, you get some that don't make it. So I am always conscious of that. Your Maryland breds, you want to try to run in Maryland if possible, so you can get your 15% bonus as an owner if you run 1, 2, 3. Delaware sometimes, if they're Delaware certified, that type of thing. And then, I even have had some Jersey breds. But then it also comes down to there's certain horses that like certain tracks or thrive at a certain distance. Like, say if there's a horse that loves a speed track and wants to go 5.5, I'm going to look for the best race at whichever track has the distance and the best condition for that horse. And hopefully I get to walk out of my stall, but if I have to put him on a van and go 3 hours to Monmouth, so be it, I will. And then obviously with your turf horses, you just cross your fingers, hope to get in a race at the right distance, the right condition, and it doesn't rain.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you mentioned some years that you could take the horse to, well, Terry, of course, says you can bring him to Golden Gate Fields for sure. He's always inviting folks out there west.
To go out there.
Yeah. And, and I'm not a big fan of the poly because I think that it takes a different, I've breathed some babies at the OBS sale and stuff like that. And the poly, they say some turf horses take to it, but there also just seems to be some certain horses that just only like to run on that. So unfortunately, you either have to run at Prescott in the summer or Turfway. So it's kind of an interesting, there's still, I think, a lot of unknowns about racing on that.
Yeah, I agree.
We've heard a lot of jockeys say that you can't hear anything.
That's 100% true. And when I've prepped 2-year-olds on the poly down at OBS, like babies that I was selling there, I tell people the closest way I can describe it is it's like if you were running across your living room carpeted floor. You don't hear anything and you don't feel anything. You're just cruising across it. Whereas I personally, I like galloping them on the dirt. I like being able to, feel how they stride out across the dirt, how they handle. I usually, I train mine on the mud and stuff like that. And, you'll get ones that go out there and just skip across it. And I'll be like, note to self, if it's ever muddy, don't scratch, because this sucker's out here flying over this mud. But, it just, there's horses for the course. You'll get horses that just love Delaware, or like I always tell people the 1-turn mile at Laurel takes a special horse. It's a 3/8 of a mile run from the head of the stretch to that second wire. So you got to have one of those horses that's like a true grinder at the end of the race that just keeps going. Because not all horses are going to run.
Gosh, I agree. I watched Laurel the other day. Andre shipped up to ride, and I literally was like, oh my gosh, this is the longest stretch ever. Like, where is the wire?
When you run to the second wire at Laurel, 5 mile, like, that's what people are like, why isn't he moving yet? And I'm like, because they've got 3/8 of a mile left to go, and you've got to do it on one lead. So you want a fresh, you know what I mean? You want to have fresh legs.
Yeah, that's a tough stretch, and I heard it's, you know, when it plays deep too, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, in the wintertime, you know, it can get deep. You know, and everywhere can get that way, you know. So I mean, that's one of the things too, you know, around here with the weather and everything, it can be tough, you know. Yeah, and so there's certain horses, you know, that I'm very conscientious about, like sending for some rest over the winter, or you know, scratching off of a track that I'm not a fan of, you know, if it's like an older campaigner. And you know, you know, sometimes it gets me in trouble with some of my owners. It's cost me some business in the past because I'm like, look, you know, I don't feel like this is the track that your horse should be running on tonight. You know, this horse has an old suspensory or whatever. So I'd rather just scratch and wait for a good track. You
Right.
know, it's not all about the dollar at the end of the day. I always feel like, you know, it's about the horses. And one thing I wish, you know, HISA is not the answer. That's for sure. You know, that everybody thinks it's not the end all be all correction. I 100% agree that our industry needs some better checking, some better policing. I just feel like these guys that get constant bad tests constantly, and the same things over and over, you know, giving them 15 days, giving them 30 days, letting them move into their assistant's name and go out and train and their equipment and all their stuff. No, you need to make them feel the pain.
The one that gets me is when they get a bad test and then that specific horse gets to run back a week or two later and then wins again. And I'm just so confused because I'm like, wait,
you know what?
How is that even allowed?
I am all about cleaning up, you know, and especially if it's something that we're not even supposed to use, right? Like I get if somebody gets a high butte, nobody's perfect, you know, or somebody might have got a Banamine or something like that. But when they're getting tests for stuff that we're not even supposed to use on our horses, you know, like gabapentin, that's a human drug. You know, you hear about that. Now we're hearing about trainers using adjunct medication that we've not been allowed to use for years.
A long time.
So you know that they're blatantly disrespecting the game, disrespecting the integrity of racing, and thumbing everybody in the eye. And when they get multiples of that, and it's something that they're not even supposed to be giving the horses, clearly it's giving them an advantage.
Right.
You know,
and I think that is what causes the black eye eventually, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, find them, give them some serious days, and oh no, that everything can't just transfer over, and give the horse days. So then the horse will stop being with the cheaters. They, you know, I feel like you have to at some point make them feel the pain.
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
I think that that's the only way you're going to clean the game up.
I think there needs to be a little bit more transparency in the industry across the board. You know, I think we have to stop, you know, stop. I don't want to, you know, stop the bullshit. You know, I mean, there's too many good guys in the business doing right by the horses.
The part that infuriates me, there's so many of us that are trying to do right by our horses, and we get a knock and we get a bad name. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate. Everybody's going to have a horse breakdown, and it bothers me so much. Like, you know what I mean? And because I am around my horses, and it's always the one that you would never think, you know what I mean? But then it really bothers me when it's the same people, and it's the chronic stuff, and it's the chronic bad tests, and I mean, it's like, and they get slaps on the wrist, you know, like at least in New York, like if you get days up there, it's like
you feel it.
That person has to bill the owners, pay the payroll, get the workman's comp, and they can't go out there and just train. I mean, I just feel like, you know, it's a slap in the face to everybody else. I don't mind getting beat, but I want to get beat fair and square.
Yes, ma'am.
I want my rider to get beat fair and square. I want my horse to get beat fair and square, and I'm fine with that.
So just quick question in that regard. I mean, all these things have state agencies, state regulations, state regulators that are overseeing horse racing. The track, obviously, we saw with Churchill Downs with Bob Baffert. Not
Yep.
singling anybody out, but it is probably the most high profile. And then you saw Naira with Bob Baffert, and even California then followed suit. I'm just curious if there are people at particular tracks that have repeat offenders. Why doesn't the track just tell them you're not welcome here anymore?
Well, I think, it comes to that. I will say that Maryland over the years has put some people out that were, repeat offenders and stuff like that, and having given stalls back. I mean, I know like Juan Vasquez was asked to leave Maryland at one point. I mean, they have, but I think that's what needs to happen.
But what about the smaller tracks? Do you think, I feel like bigger tracks pointed out more?
I do, but and it's like, here's the deal. We give away a lot of money every night at Charlestown. Our
Right.
structure is just as good as anywhere else. Like a $33,000 main special weight is nothing to shake at. You know what I mean?
No.
Absolutely.
And
So why are things not as transparent, I guess?
well, I think that things are getting better for sure. I mean, I think they're working on it. And then, of course, you have the Mid-Atlantic medication guidelines that they use now. They go by them and stuff like that. But yeah, and I will say that when we had our little rash of breakdowns, we were on it. Like the racing commission was on it, the racetrack was on it. I'm on the HPBA board. We were on it, like on it big time. You remember we canceled the race. It was a collective effort between everybody. You know what I mean? PNGI, and when
And it ended up being a surface issue, right? Back then.
never really kind of got determined that it was but we addressed it. We were like, we did everything that we should have done. We peeled back the surface. Representatives from the jockeys came.
Crystal, your husband said, you guys have my lovely wife up way past her bedtime. Her dinner's a bowl of cereal.
Well, on a dark day, I'm usually asleep by 7, but I stayed up late just for you guys.
I love it.
We appreciate that. Well, a couple quick questions and we'll let you go.
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Ryan Troy Tripp says changing leads. Is that something you train your horse to do? Does the jockey do something during the race to signal to the horse that it should switch leads? I saw a horse today at Parks where you can literally see the jockey just taking the horse's head and trying to move it over to get it to switch leads.
Well, so yeah, so you want them to run on their right lead when they're running down the stretch, fall onto their left lead into the turn, and then as they're coming out, naturally they should fall back onto the right lead. And yes, we teach them that as we're galloping them as babies and stuff. The more they breeze and the faster they go, it generally comes natural to most horses. But I'm telling you, you've seen some of the best racehorses. I always feel like sometimes, if they ask them, usually it's a inside pull to the rein a little bit and maybe a little bit of a weight shift in the saddle. If they don't switch, like per se, the Charlestown stretch is kind of short, Timonium is short. But I mean, Chica Rica was such a game filly. I have more win pictures of her winning on her left lead because she would just be so into it coming down the lane if there was like a horse next to her. And the riders would just leave her alone. Like Travis rode her, Oliver rode her, Hosman Santana rode her, and all of them would say the same thing. She was just running, and she'll switch when she wants to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it always helps if some of them get that fresh leg. It gives them that extra little surge, and you'll see some of them switch like maybe at the 16th pole or something. But it's something that you teach them as they're breezing as babies, and you generally want them to break on their right lead, but they don't always do that. The good riders know when they need to make them switch because they need a fresh leg, but the good riders do it in such a way, just finessing. Because if you go shifting your weight all around and this, that, and the other,
if you have to do all that, leave them alone.
Exactly. It'll throw them off stride and it winds up costing you more. And, now that they ride with basically a Nerf bat, it's like, that's what the first time they came out to the paddock with that.
It's a pool noodle. I had Andre smack me with it because I wanted to feel it. It's like a pool noodle.
We are talking about horse racing still, right?
It's like a little Nerf bat. It was like I could take this home and smack my kids with it, and they would laugh.
Well, I said for charity, I'll take it. I'll let somebody whack me like they did in the movie Animal House. Yes, sir. May I have another? See how many I
Yeah.
can take before I call it quits.
It's
One
really
more-
not bad. It's not like the old ones.
I'll even go a couple of the old ones. All right, one quick question, and then we'll let you get to your bowl of cereal. But Grandma Horse Racing wants to know, how do the clean barns compete against the dirty ones? And I don't think he's talking about Grandma is talking about cleanliness.
No, and that's the thing. So it's like, that's the frustrating part, is that, if they're always taking that edge because they're just okay with taking their $1,000 fine in their 15 days. And then the next time, maybe it's 30 days and a $20, $2,500 fine, and nothing changes. The horses get to keep running, and, everything.
How many points can a person get? I feel like there has to be like a point system, right?
Well, what comes to my mind is the movie Full Metal Jacket. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Full Metal Jacket.
Of it.
Mhm.
Yes. So, that the one guy, Private Pyle, who
Yeah.
couldn't get with it, they had a sock
They
party
beat
for
them up
him.
with the soap.
Yes. So you have to have a soap party.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. So it's kind of like, if they started giving the horses days that were in that trainer's care, and you can't just move them, well, guess what? Owners are going to get tired of that. And that's how you clean the game up, I think. You know what I mean?
That's a great idea. That's a
Yeah.
really good idea.
It's like, if you want to be with the cheaters, then
Like the horse goes in jail, just like the claiming rule, right?
yeah, like, so if that trainer has 15 days, any horse that was running under their care, well, guess what? They have 15 days too. I mean, like I said, and I'm talking for like subsistence that we're not even supposed to be using.
Yep.
It's not like a little butte overage or
The butte and
and-
bantamine thing is always going to be argued. I mean, we use them daily sometimes for standard care. So, I think people understand
Yeah.
what we're talking
but
about.
these guys that are using stuff that is on the banned list, I don't think there should be any reprieve. I don't
Agreed.
want, and especially when they get multiple ones.
Well, don't the other trainers get? So I would think, just personally, if I were a trainer there and I knew other people were doing something wrong, or if I were a jockey, in essence, that's taking money out of your mouth.
Yep.
And I know my temperament would lead to a conversation.
Oh, it leads to many conversations. I mean, and we like us on the board and stuff, and we're all about, and I will say that Charlestown, our testing's very good. Like, we do test, and the testing's very good, and everybody having to go, start sending to the accredited lab and all that. That's, that should be, and that's how it's got to be. And I feel like they should test all of them all the time. And I have no problem with them doing the out of competition testing. You know what I mean? I think that's a good thing. You know how many people that have gotten busted training on steroids and stuff like that since they started doing that? I mean, I think that that's the only way we survive, is by policing ourselves better and 100% about being transparent.
But as a trainer, I mean, is there a point where
I think there is a point.
at what point do they say, okay, enough? I mean,
at what point does the soap come out? That's
right.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What point?
Instead, those guys get rewarded, oh, well, he's winning at, 30 or 40%. So they flock to him and they get rewarded. And that's not what should happen.
No,
So
absolutely not.
if you know that, hey, there's a good chance that guy is going to get days at some point throughout the year. So your horse that you're paying money to get trained might get in a jackpot and not be able to run for 45 days or 30 days. You might think twice about sending your horse to a person that's a repeat offender.
Yeah, I would think 90 days would be about right for a horse, because 15 days, a lot of horses don't run back in 15 days anyway. That really wouldn't be enough. So 90 days, you're for sure knocking out at least one start in there.
Absolutely.
There has to be, they have to feel it more for sure, or it just continues and it's ugly.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, we don't want to end on an ugly note. We want to end on a positive note. We've had you for an hour. We usually tell people a half an hour.
Crystal, we kept you so much longer than you just had so much good things to say. So thank you.
I don't mind it at all. Like I said, I'm happy to join you guys. I'm all about trying to give back. That's why on top of everything that I else do, I do, like I said, I've been on the board for a while. I helped write the condition book, and we started the thing for the aftercare with the jockeys. That's what I'm saying. Like, the track is a unique place. I always tell people the fence is to keep the people in, not to keep the people out.
Yeah.
So one last question for me. The condition book.
Yep.
How would you recommend handicappers, because a lot of the sport is betting, us on the outside, it's betting horses. I do a lot of statistical and then other analysis, but I'll admit the condition book is a little bit, I understand what's going on when I'm reading the conditions, but just kind of looking at the horses and see where they fit in the condition book. How would you recommend handicappers start to look at the condition book to kind of get an understanding of basically, if maybe I would imagine you as a trainer mentioning, all your conditions, you might see a race and you say, you know what, this is actually a drop down for my horse, whereas a handicapper might miss that.
Well, of course, a horse that's always coming out of, say, allowance company into like 15 claimers and stuff like that, those are always horses that you want to play, because it's a relief when, someone's willing to tag their horse and they're coming, say, down out of allowance company, obviously. And I'm sure most sharp handicappers see that.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, say somebody ran their horse in a out of condition the time before, ran it in like a never win 3, and the horse is a never win 2, and you look and see the horse is back in a never win 2, that horse is probably worth a bet because it's back in the proper condition.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
and how much difference is it, you think, running an open company versus state bred?
Big difference.
Yeah,
West Virginia wise, anyway.
Well, I think that the West Virginia breds have really a lot of people have bred to better horses, and the horses have definitely gone up in quality. Like they breed to out of town stallions. You know what I mean? Like Mike DeCola breeds to a lot of Kentucky stallions. Jeff has. A lot of people have stepped up their game as far as breeding. Tim and Judy Grahams, they've bred a lot of horses over to Maryland stallions. And then, and people are still, and listen, there's no tougher a stallion in West Virginia than Fiberson. You know what I mean? He just gives you a runner. Like, you just cross your fingers and hope your mare gets him full. And he's just a great stallion. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take one of them any day, because they're just runners. But, so it just depends. You look at the state, even O'Sullivan's, they've been breeding some, they had like some summer fronts and stuff like that. But, it just depends on, but yes, a state bred maiden special weight is obviously going to be easier than an open maiden special weight on a whole. But let me tell you, when you look in like those allowance never win 2 races, if they, have the West Virginia clause on, the open horses better be tied on, because if that horse has managed to at least get through all of its allowance conditions in state bred company, he's probably going to be all right.
Yeah.
You have to drop into the claiming ranks once they go into their state bred. And that's, and that's just a fact of life. And if you want to continue to win and make money with your horse, then that's what you do. So.
Well, Crystal, it has been amazing. We've got lots of comments. Another great guest and interview with very good host. Great, honest guest. Love it. We love you. And I just want you to know, I've told you before, I'm a fan. You have support here with horse racing today. We love what you're doing. And I think that you deserve all the applauses. We got some the negative stuff. It comes and goes with it's with social media. People always have something to say. So but I am a fan, and I've been a fan since I was a young girl. You're one of the women that I looked up to, seeing you on the rail. And I never had the balls to talk to you as a kid because you were intimidating. But then I got to know you, and I'm like, and to hear more about your horses and how you've intertwined that with your family. I love to see it.
I want to see kids come to the track and get involved, because that's what we need, to keep the game going. Is, is to have the next generation, you know what I mean? And so like when I like am at say Delaware on a Sunday and you see like the younger generation, or you know, you look out, all the college kids that come out some nights, you're like, okay, there's hope, you know, because we, you know, you want to keep it going. And obviously betting and all that kind of stuff is very important. And we got to keep people coming out to the races and doing all that kind of stuff so that we can all keep our jobs.
And we got to keep doing the key thing is putting the horse first, right?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, and you know, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not on Twitter and I'm not on Instagram. I don't do Facebook.
Sometimes I wish I wasn't. So you're not missing anything.
Well, I think in a lot of respects, that's where track should consider bringing people like us to the fold, because we'll come in and do all that stuff. And you know, if you want to meet a younger group of people, you have to meet them. You know, they asked a bank robber one time, why do you rob banks? I forget the bank robber's name, but he said, because that's where the money is, right?
Yep.
And if you want to meet people, if you want to bring young people to the track, you got to meet them where they are. And right now, those young people are on social media. They're on YouTube. They're on TikTok. And, you know, that's stuff that we're trying to do. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people who run the tracks are a little older, stuffier guys like me. And they're not so used to the social media. They don't really know what it is. So they have to bring other folks in, I think, like ourselves, to help them create that content, to get it out there. And I do believe that will go a long way.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. I mean, like, and that's the thing, like, the game is changing, and you got to kind of, I always tell like my kids, listen, you got to roll with the punches sometimes. Don't, you know, and that's a fact, you know, you just, that the game is changing and you've got to evolve with the game. And,
right. Change doesn't have to be scary though, right? Change can be good.
No. And you know, this is just, the way it is nowadays. I mean, I never in a million years dreamed that I'd be able to figure out how to get on my Paramount Plus app and watch Yellowstone, but my kids taught me. You know,
you're so funny.
Yeah, I still can't get on. In any case,
I'm always getting my mom or somebody texting me like, "Can you help me put this password in?" I'm like, "It's the same password it's been for a year."
I know. I'll text Harley. I'm like, oh, I hope she's not in class. I'm like, what's the password to the laptop again? I'm trying to pay my bills. Let me get into the laptop.
Well, it says Natalie Harvey is the next great horsewoman. Well, I love the whole family. I love what you guys are doing. And your little adopted daughter, Raina, you know, she's a huge fan and supporter of you on social media.
I love her.
And I love everything you guys have going on. I'm happy to be a part of it with Andre. And I'm really happy that you and I connected too, because you're a good woman and you're a good horsewoman. And I appreciate you spending overtime with us today.
You know, I always tell people, you know what, like Natalie and Raina, they go to the track with me, they work all the time and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's what kept me out of trouble. You know, kept me off, you know, if more kids were working and doing that kind of stuff, and they wouldn't be on their phones and they wouldn't be getting in trouble. If they're busy, they're not up to no good.
Amen, sister.
I keep all mine busy.
That's why I have the farm now, because that's what we do with the kids. It's like, and I'm right. It's kind of tough right now with it being brutal, up and down. But that warm weather, those kids are out in the barn.
Absolutely. And mine are do the same way. And the boys know how to ride the lawnmower and run the weed eater and all that good stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Great. And Raina says, grateful to have you.
Oh.
Raina, I thought you were her kid already. So I told her, I was like, yeah, I was talking to your daughters. And she was like, wait, what?
You might as well be.
All right, Rich, you got anything else?
That's it for me with Crystal. Thank you for joining us this evening, Crystal. We appreciate it. And welcome back anytime.
Absolutely. No, I'm going to come back.
We appreciate your forthrightness.
When that big horse gets revealed, I'll be watching. Porky, put me on now. I'm watching, Porky.
Yeah, gotta let us know beforehand so we can go out. We do bet on horses.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you have something special coming up, text me. I'll come and get some, maybe get some footage, some videos, and put something together, getting it to the races. That'd be really cool.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Anytime.
Cool. All right, man. Well, you go enjoy your bowl of cereal and
tonight. There's tonight.
And
That's my go-to move when I come in from the races at night. Frosted flakes with a banana.
Yeah, mine's mini wheats with the banana. So same.
Yeah.
It's easier, right?
Well,
All
yeah.
right, lady. Well, thank you so much for being here with us tonight, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right, young lady. You guys take care. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck at the track.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Miss Julie.
Okay, dokie. She's amazing.
Our first show together, was it a success?
Yeah, it was
sure?
a success. We went way longer than I think that's the longest show I've done.
I think so as well, probably for me too. Well, we do the show in the morning. It runs about an hour sometimes. I want to try to get them done in the morning in a half an hour, but that's next to impossible.
But she's amazing. You know, I wanted to bring her on just because she is, as I grew up and I knew her just by her name and seeing her at the track, she did have this intimidating kind of badass presence. And I was like, always kind of curious to get to know who she really was. And, you know, I've connected with her before this now, closer this year, and just talking to her and learning more about her. And it's like, wow, she's not intimidating. She's a really, really nice woman. And she's got some really good knowledge and good things to say. And I love her to pieces. I love the whole family. So
Indeed. Well, they seem like they all loved her because
and she
everybody's
was
in
my
here as
first
well.
Charlestown trainer
commenting.
to come on for me. She was my first Charlestown trainer that I got to come on. So
Well, we'll get more for sure. You know, you have to have the person who kicks down the door before everybody else can come flooding in.
yeah.
So tomorrow, Terry and I will be back again at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll go through Parks again. Had a pretty good day at Parks handicapping. One horse away from having a tremendous day. So maybe tomorrow we can piece them all together. Wednesday, Charles will be back. We'll do Gulfstream Park. Thursday, I think maybe Aqueduct. I'm not sure if they're running. If not, we'll go with Gulfstream. Off Friday because Tom is trying out for the Brewers and then the Cubs. Spring training down in Arizona. He's just going to go watch him. He's not really going to try
I
out.
was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, I told him he's like that old man in the movie Major Leagues that threw like 25 mile an hour and just confused everybody. That'll be Thomas for sure. And then Saturday we'll be back with some stakes racing and then back on the normal schedule. Any sense of who is the guest tomorrow night if Sean makes his return?
Yes, tomorrow night we have Raylu Gutierrez. I'm so excited. Jockey Raylu Gutierrez. And then Wednesday, Romero Marat is scheduled. I actually just got a message from him. He went down in the last race at New York saying that he's okay. He's waiting on test results in the hospital. So that show might be tentatively set. Just let's see how he's feeling.
Well, best wishes to him for sure. I know I'm supposed to do some stuff with them too on Wednesday night with the Web3. So looking forward to doing that as well. You'll be able to catch that. Look down on Horse Race, the number 2 day, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And you mentioned Raylu. Raylu will be a part of some videos releasing for jockeys from Jamie's trip down to Fairgrounds for the Risen Star Stake. The first one, the introductions, just the beginning part, should be out tomorrow morning. I know it's a 15-second video that takes you 3 hours to edit.
Oh, I get it. People have no idea. Editing is a lot of time. I'll be up for hours working on one video to make it. It's like 30 seconds and it's taken me 2 hours. But
yes, it's you know, and I don't know about you, but I know when I do it, if it can look good, but there's just like something off and you're not quite sure what it is. And you just keep kind of messing with it, messing with it.
Or it could be the most minimal thing that probably nobody else would notice. But I was like, oh, if I fix that, it would look so much better. That's me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be done with it. And then I'll go back and have to re-edit because I'll see something I don't like.
Yeah, me as well. All right. Well, it's been my pleasure tonight as your guest host, Julie. And then tomorrow, hopefully Sean feels better. He'll be back so I can work on. I still have to get the video from Tampa Bay Downs out from like 2.5 weeks ago. That's a much longer one. Hopefully I can get that done tomorrow, but keep an eye on all of our social sites because we are trying to bring more content in terms of picks, more personalities, and then more at the track experiences. If you haven't done so
more
yet,
at the track experiences. It's starting to warm up. Listen, it's just been too cold down here, Rich. It's just been too cold. I can't go out there when it's 18 degrees with my husband. No.
I can't blame you for that. I don't like the 18 degrees either. So just keep an eye out. If you haven't told your friends about us, please do hit up the subscribe button while you're on YouTube. A lot of folks giving us some love on Facebook today. We appreciate that. The thumbs up, Steve Goodrich, Shane French, Katrina Lawman, Gary Gray. I'm blind as hell, so forgive me. Ryan, Troy Tripp, Beverly Taylor, also Amira Laka, Raina Jenkins, Sonny Martinez. If, like all of them, you like what you saw, thumbs up. Help us a little bit with the algorithms, but we appreciate it.
And you
We
can always
appreciate
share
you
the
joining
video
us.
on the replays. You can share the videos too. We love that.
Indeed. All right, Julie, that takes us wire to wire. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I'm good. That's all. It's been great.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We hope that we see you in the
Winner circle.
Absolutely. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us again.